AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she excluded my husband and me from the guest list over a petty argument. I, 33F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emily, 29F. Growing up, we were practically inseparable. We went to the same college, shared a lot of friends, and even lived together for a couple of years after graduation. Our relationship has had its ups and downs like any siblings, but I always thought we'd be there for each other no matter what. That's why everything that's happened over the past few months feels so painful and confusing. A little background: I've been married to my husband, Daniel, 35M, for 5 years. Daniel and I met in college and have built a life together in the city where we both work. He's been supportive and kind, and I've always considered him my closest confidant. Emily, on the other hand, lives in a different state, and while we stay in touch, it's not as often as I'd like. About 6 months ago, Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 31M. She was ecstatic and immediately started planning her wedding. At first, I was thrilled and offered to help in any way I could. Emily seemed excited to have me involved, but as the planning progressed, things started to change. The trouble began when Emily sent me a list of people she was inviting to the wedding. I noticed that Daniel's name wasn't on it. When I asked her about it, she said that Mark didn't want too many plus ones and that the guest list had to be very limited. I was a bit hurt, but figured maybe it was just a numbers issue. Then Emily told me she was only inviting a handful of her close friends and family, and they had to make cuts everywhere. Still, I thought Daniel and I being married meant we'd come together. I brought it up again, and Emily said Mark was uncomfortable with Daniel coming because they didn't know each other well and didn't want awkwardness at the wedding. I was stunned. We've known Mark for years. He used to work with Daniel. They even met a few times socially. I tried to explain this to Emily, but she brushed it off and said Mark had the final say on the guest list because it was his wedding too. Feeling hurt, but wanting to keep the peace, I accepted it reluctantly. I told Daniel about it, and he was upset, but said he didn't want to cause drama. We decided I'd attend alone to support Emily. Then things got worse. A few weeks later, Emily called me and said she'd heard from a mutual friend that I'd been venting about the situation to others. She accused me of trying to sabotage the wedding and being selfish. I was confused because I hadn't said anything bad about Emily or the wedding, just vented general frustrations about being excluded to close friends. Emily told me she no longer wanted me at the wedding, and that if I came, she'd consider it a personal attack. I was devastated. I tried to talk to her, but she blocked me on social media and stopped responding to my messages. I reached out to Mark directly to try to smooth things over, but he said Emily was firm on the guest list and that inviting Daniel was a non-negotiable for her. I was shocked. It seemed like Emily had made a unilateral decision and was unwilling to listen to reason. The wedding date is in 2 weeks, and I haven't heard from Emily in months. My parents and other family members have urged me to forgive her and go to the wedding to support her. But Daniel and I feel deeply hurt and excluded from what should be a joyful family event. I told my parents I wouldn't attend because Emily had effectively disinvited both me and Daniel, and I don't want to be in a situation where I'm unwanted or made to feel unwelcome. My parents say I'm overreacting and should just put aside the hurt for one day to be there for my sister. Daniel agrees that maybe I should go, but I'm worried that going will only enable Emily to continue treating us poorly. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she excluded my husband and me from the guest list over what feels like a petty and unfair argument. Should I just suck it up and go for the sake of family? Or am I right to stand my ground and protect my own well-being? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé bring his dog to our wedding even though it caused a huge family fight. So, here's the situation. I, 28F, am getting married next year. My fiancé, 30M, and I have been together for 5 years, and we've been planning this wedding for over a year now. It's been mostly smooth sailing, except for one big issue that's come up with my sister, 26F, and her fiancé, 27M. My sister and I are close, but have very different personalities. She's super laid back, and her fiancé, Mike, is kind of a free spirit. He has this dog, a large mixed breed rescue named Bear, who's basically his baby. Bear is very much a part of their lives, and they take him everywhere. They even went on their engagement photo shoot with Bear, and honestly, the dog is adorable. Here's where the problem starts. When Mike and my sister got engaged, they immediately asked if Bear could be part of the wedding. I initially thought it was cute and said I'd think about it. But as the wedding planning progressed, the idea of having a large dog at our ceremony and reception started to seem less feasible. Our wedding venue is a beautiful historic estate with indoor and outdoor areas. They have strict rules about animals inside the buildings, except for service animals. Also, Bear isn't trained as a service dog. The outdoor space is fine, but the weather is unpredictable and there's a lot of space for Bear to run off or get lost, especially with a crowd of over 100 people. I tried to explain this to my sister and Mike gently. I said I understood how important Bear is to them, but I was worried about the logistics, safety, and how the other guests would feel. Some guests have allergies or fears of dogs. Also, Mike has never really trained Bear to stay still for long periods or be around large groups, so I was worried the dog might cause chaos. Mike got defensive and said Bear is calm and well-behaved and that he's never caused any trouble at events. He insisted that if Bear couldn't come, he might not come either. This caught me off guard. I told him that was an unreasonable ultimatum, especially since the dog was their choice to bring, not ours. My sister backed Mike up, saying it was unfair to exclude Bear when they wanted to be included in the wedding celebration. I talked to my fiancé about this, and he agreed with me. He said that a wedding is a formal event, and it's important to consider all guests and the venue's rules. So, we made the decision to have a strict no-pets policy at the wedding. When we communicated this to my sister and Mike, it exploded into a big argument. My sister accused me of being controlling and not caring about her happiness. Mike said I was selfish and that Bear was practically family. They started saying things like I was ruining their relationship with this decision. The fight didn't stop there. My parents got involved and tried to mediate. They were initially leaning towards letting Bear come because they didn't want to upset my sister. But after hearing the logistical problems and my concerns, they agreed that it was probably best to follow the venue's rules and keep the wedding pet free. My sister decided she was going to come anyway, but without Mike if Bear wasn't allowed. She said she wasn't going to be forced to choose between her fiancé and her family. My fiancé and I were shocked. We felt like we were being held hostage over a dog. The family is now split on the issue. Some relatives think we're being unreasonable and that a dog can't ruin a wedding. Others think we're within our rights to set boundaries for our big day. The tension is really high, and I don't know how to fix it. I've tried to offer alternatives, like a separate casual event where Bear can be included or having Bear in the wedding photos before or after the ceremony, but nothing satisfies them. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé bring his dog to our wedding and standing firm on a no-pets policy even though it's caused a huge rift in my family. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my house during my wedding weekend. I, 28F, have always been close with my younger sister, Emma, 24F. Growing up, we were inseparable despite our differences. She's more outgoing and impulsive while I'm the planner and more reserved type. Our family is pretty tight-knit, and when I got engaged last year, Emma was ecstatic and immediately threw herself into the wedding preparations, even insisting she wanted to be my maid of honor. The wedding is scheduled for the end of this month, and we've spent the past year organizing every detail meticulously. We're having the ceremony at a beautiful venue about 2 hours from where we live. Since most of our family and friends live out of town, we rented a large Airbnb close to the venue for everyone to stay in over the wedding weekend. The house is spacious, with 5 bedrooms and plenty of space for guests to relax before and after the events. We specifically chose it to make the weekend special and convenient for everyone involved. When Emma first mentioned wanting her boyfriend, Alex, to come with her to the wedding, I was totally fine with it. I hadn't met him in person, but had heard a lot from Emma. She talked about him a lot, and he seemed nice enough from what I gathered. I didn't think twice about him joining us at the Airbnb. We even planned for him to be there for the rehearsal dinner and the post-wedding brunch. But about 2 months before the wedding, things started to get complicated. I received a message from Emma saying that Alex wanted to bring his friends too. She said they'd all be crashing at the Airbnb during the weekend because the hotel rates near the venue were too expensive. I was caught off guard. The house was already packed with family and friends, and I had specifically asked everyone to limit their guests to immediate family and wedding party only. The total number of people staying in the house was already close to the maximum comfortable capacity. I told Emma that I wasn't comfortable with extra guests I didn't know staying there, especially strangers who had no connection to the wedding. She got upset and said I was being unreasonable. "It's just a few people. They won't be a problem," she said. I explained that it wasn't just about them being a problem, but about planning and respect for the space we had rented. The house was not a party venue. It was meant to be a place for close family and friends to relax. Adding several new people would disrupt that balance and create chaos. Emma pushed back harder, accusing me of controlling and not trusting her judgment. She said Alex's friends would be respectful and just wanted a place to stay because the hotels nearby were out of their budget. I tried to explain that I understood the financial issues, but that this was a special event with limited accommodations, and I had already made arrangements with people who had been invited. I suggested that maybe Alex and his friends could find other accommodations or stay at a hotel that was a bit farther away and shuttle to the venue. That's when things really escalated. Emma said if I didn't let Alex's friends stay, she wouldn't come to the wedding. She said she didn't want to be there without them because they were important to her and that I was putting rules before family. I felt like I was being bullied, but I also didn't want to ruin the wedding or lose my sister's presence on one of the most important days of my life. I tried to negotiate. I said Alex could stay, but no additional guests. She reluctantly agreed to that, but then told me Alex's best friend, Mike, would still be crashing there because he had nowhere else to go. I said absolutely not. The guest list was closed. Emma accused me of being selfish and inconsiderate. Our conversation started to get heated, and she sent me messages telling me she felt like I care more about a house than about her happiness. I told her that was unfair and that I wanted her there, but I couldn't compromise on the accommodations. I even offered to help Alex and Mike find a budget hotel nearby, but Emma said they couldn't afford it. At this point, I started to feel that this wasn't about money or logistics anymore, but about control and ultimatums. The week before the wedding, Emma sent me a long message saying she was coming alone but would be distant during the weekend because she felt hurt and betrayed by my decisions. She said she wasn't sure if she wanted to keep a close relationship with me after the wedding. I felt terrible but stuck to my decision because I wanted the wedding weekend to be about celebrating with the people who mattered most to me. On the day of the wedding, Emma showed up alone. She was quiet and didn't engage much with me or the family. Alex and his friends were nowhere to be seen. I did notice, though, that Emma kept checking her phone and seemed distracted. A few hours into the reception, I overheard one of the wedding guests mention seeing Alex and Mike at a nearby Airbnb. I felt conflicted. Part of me wished I could have been more flexible, but another part of me was relieved that things didn't spiral out of control at the house. Since then, Emma has been distant and has barely responded to my messages. Our parents think I should have let Alex's friends stay to avoid drama, but I honestly don't regret standing my ground about the house rules. I've tried reaching out to Emma to talk, but she either ignores me or gives one-word answers. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend and his friends stay at the Airbnb during my wedding weekend? Should I have been more accommodating to avoid family drama? Or was I justified in sticking to the guest list and plans I made for the wedding?